Welcome back to MMA Breakdowns and Bets. Uh, as always, Brandon Olivas is with me. I am Santino DeFranco. And we've got Tom Aspinall fighting Alexander Volkov this week. But before we get into that, let's talk about Marshall Rogan Inu, who is sponsoring the podcast. I don't know if you guys have seen Marshall Rogan Inu, the UFC. That there's been a lot of people shouting them out all over the UFC, all over the media. But they are, trying to revolutionize the crypto game, and they're offering money. They're giving a lot of us money, the fighters, the media, sponsors, because they are trying to really, help all of the MMA fighters, the MMA world, the MMA game. So go to, check out the link in our show notes. Check out Marshall Rogan Inu. And, also you guys check out our Patreon where we give all of our picks for the fights. And, that link is in our show notes as well. You get, Brandon, you killed it on the Cage Warriors, on the Bellator, on a lot of the regional stuff. And of course you gave all of your picks, and you even had a broken line that you got everybody on the Discord on pretty early as well. So check out the Patreon. And, before we get into this week's show, let's talk a little bit about last week.
That was a rough one last week, all the way around.
That was a rough one. The Patreon, this is probably my worst week of picks on the Patreon by far times a million. I think this is um, definitely my worst. But worse than that, Kamuela fought. Kamuela, just had probably his worst performance of his career. Um, just everybody has a bad performance, and that was his. So hopefully that one doesn't happen again. There's some stuff going on with that. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to. That's his business, his laundry. I'm not going to air out stuff. Um,
But can I
Damon
can I address that
Jackson.
really quick?
Yeah.
A lot of people message us and first of all, the "I told you so" stuff. Okay, I told you so after the fact. It is what it is. I was the only one talking about Kamu last week, and nothing I said was a lie. Like, the guy legitimately, everybody, you ask anybody in the gym, everybody's seen him go. He is legitimately very, very good. And that being said, that performance, it wasn't a good performance at all. I mean, he got smoked. It wasn't really that close of a fight. It didn't play out the way that I think any of us saw. But you guys are like, you're biased. Yes, absolutely, we're biased. You won't even talk about it. And I didn't spend any time breaking down Damon Jackson. I didn't say a word about Damon. I didn't say, oh, he sucks, he's horrible. Of course we're biased. That's my brother. That's, he's my family. That's my best friend. He's, had me at his gym for 7 years now. I've trained with him. I've been through everywhere with him. So yes, of course I'm biased. Of course I'm always going to say he's the one. But I actually did believe all this stuff. I still do. I still know how good he is. I think everything. But that being said, next time he comes out, it's time to actually show that he belongs in the UFC because, my brother. But that wasn't a UFC quality performance. So there's nothing you can do but move on.
Yeah. After the fight, I told him, I said, look, he actually told me, he was like, there's nothing that you did as a coach that didn't train me to be, to what needed to happen. And I said, I know. I know there wasn't anything that we missed. And I said, that said, you just had a bad performance. Like, we're all allowed a bad performance. I said, the likelihood of you having two bad performances back to back is very slim. I said, that said, you are as good as I think you are, and you're as good everywhere that I think you are. That doesn't change anything. So, he had a bad performance. That said, you guys are, probably going to fade him pretty hard next time, and that's probably going to be a big mistake. He really is that good, you guys. And hey, and we are biased. I mean, this is uh, find anybody else doing this who is training UFC fighters every day. That is my main job. That is what I do for a living. I have trained numerous world champions at this point, and of course, I'm going to be biased when we talk about the people in the gym, which is why I don't talk about the people who I train. I mean, that's why I specifically don't do that, because I don't want to be biased. I don't want to offer one, of course, any inside information, but I don't want to give you guys a good read or a bad read or any read. I believe in, like, I'm so non-superstitious in life. I don't believe, I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual. I'm not superstitious. I'm not namaste-ish, nothing. The one thing I don't want, I have some superstition with, is talking about my fighters. We have people all the time that are like, "Oh, is so and so going to win or lose?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, they're prepared, they're trained well, or their weight's an issue, or oh, this or that. But I never say if anyone is going to win or lose, because I don't know that. I can't read the future. And all I can do is train fighters as well as I can. And it's up to them to go fight and win or lose. I mean, that's not on me. So, and
That's the
I'm not
most
just not
frustrating
going to
part of
mention it.
everything is yeah, that's the most frustrating part of everything. Like even gambling, people people are just so funny, man, in the comments like, "Oh, you bet this guy, you bet that guy." It's like it's not me in there fighting. I wasn't the one who went and fought. You're not going to come torture me. I didn't put on the gloves and go swing. You know, it wasn't me who quit. Like, all right, you guys, this we win some, we lose some. To call anybody a
Yep.
fraud or a dummy, like you win some, you lose some. That's part of the game.
It's
We
kind of
watch film,
funny.
we break it down, and we give it to you. That's it.
Yep. And as a coach, it's actually, for you guys who are wondering, it's actually a lot easier to coach fighters with watching film than it is to pick fighters who are going to win on a gambling line, because the thing that I do, and this is actually one of the things I pride myself as a coach, is I watch so much film and I game plan. I mean, I did a lot of the heavy lifting for the game plan for Henry to beat Demetrius, and that was one of the biggest riddles of MMA that I've ever been involved in, and I'm pretty happy with a lot of those game plans. But the thing with that, with watching tape and game planning for a fight for one of my fighters, is I have some sort of control of the outcome, because I can say, hey, Brandon Moreno does this, so Figueiredo, we need to do this, and then we drill this, and it works or it doesn't work. But at least I have a say in it. Whereas I'm watching tape for, we've got Volkov and Aspinall right now. I'm going, okay, well, I think Aspinall's good here, Volkov's good here, but I don't know what their coaches are working on. So it's actually easier to train for fights than it is to call them, with what we're doing. So, that said, I think we're having fun. I like it. I love talking fights. We've got a great community on our Patreon and on the YouTube as well. And on to the next.
That's all we can do. I think this is a good week, so I guess we should get it kicked off without further ado.
Let's go, man. I really like this week for fights. I actually like it for bets. It was a lot of times. I got to qualify. There's a couple fights on here that I did not tape, and I told Brandon, for you guys out there ahead of time, that I am not going to tape every fight on this card. I was in Vegas for a Camuela's fight, and then I was in San Diego 2 hours afterward, and then flew home, Monday morning, and there just wasn't a lot of time. And what I didn't want to do is, last week I didn't have a lot of time to tape, and so I kind of rushed things, and I didn't have the reads that I wanted to last week. And so this week I said, Brandon, I'm only going to tape what I want to tape. I'll talk about the fights that I want to talk about, but there's some of them that I'm just not going to get involved in, because I don't want to waste time. And so, Brandon, you got the heavy lifting on some of these fights today. So
As per usual, look at my hair. I
as
forwent
per
a
usual,
haircut so I could watch tape for you
you
guys.
guys. So
Getting
we've
all
got
tatted up.
Oh yeah, you finish your tat. I shaved my head. Well, I didn't shave it. I actually faded it up. I went to a barber
Wait,
and got it
hold on.
faded.
Before you get to this, I do want to tell everybody we actually have a very, very special guest on the podcast this week.
Who is that?
Gunnar Nelson.
Gunnar Nelson is coming on this podcast. Give us some
No, he's already
details.
on. Look at you. You are Gunnar Nelson, and we
Oh,
are talking to Gunnar Nelson.
I thought you were gonna drop some bomb on me or something. Come on, I'm not gonna, like, if I had a beard and, I mean, what? All shaved headed white people look the same to you?
I mean, it is what it is. You look like Icelandic Gunnar Nelson.
Hmm. Well, I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or not.
You look like Chernobyl Gunnar Nelson.
All right. First up, we've got Muhammad Mokaev. I don't know how you say that. And Cody Durden. I can say that. Cody Durden is the easiest name for me to pronounce ever. I hope Cody Durden is on every fight card for the rest of my life, so I can always pronounce one name correctly. Um, so, why don't you kick it off? I know you love your IMMAF guys. You love them. Muhammad has 10,000 IMMAF amateur fights. I'm sure have stalked him. You love him. You want his kids. Tell us about him.
Well, it's getting harder to like the IMAF guys because they just keep losing. Like Will Starks was one of the better guys that I've ever seen come out of IMAF, and he didn't even perform last time. Like it's getting hard to love these guys. But what I do like is it's just a lot of experience. It's a lot of experience against people from other regions that can't fly international to go fight. Right? If I just fight in Arizona, I get kids from Tucson who don't know anything, and I get kids from all over in random little places. But at least in IMAF, somebody gets a sponsor, they put a team together, and you're going to get good wrestlers. You're going to get good strikers. You're going to get a lot of the best of what the world has to offer. So it's not be all end all, but it is a lot of really, really good experience, and a lot of really good people have come out of there. And Muhammad Mokaev is one of them. So, I guess here's the thing that I like. I was really struggling with this fight because the more I watched Muhammad Mokaev, the less that I liked him. I don't know if he'd ever actually lived in Dagestan or whatever. He's a London kid. He's a London product. Um, where does he train with? He trains with Nathan Wood. I saw him in there with a few really good of those. A couple of the British fighters. He's relentless. He just moves really, really well. Um, his takedowns to me are a bit amateurish. Everything is a drop, a drop double leg. He's shooting from distance. That part I don't love. But what I do love is that he is so pliable and he moves so well. And it's the chain wrestling. It's, the misdirection, pop out the back, take the back. The fight that really concerned me actually was his last fight. I had bet on him in that last fight, and I was like, man, I can see an upset against, I believe it was Blaine O'Driscoll, because Blaine O'Driscoll has good takedown defense, good cardio, and good striking. And we actually saw that happen. Is Mokaev got tired because he couldn't hold him down, and then Driscoll put him on the cage and started picking him apart. And by the skin of his teeth, he caught that rear naked choke. I mean, that was if he didn't get that was going to be his first loss. That was going to be a big upset there. But in this particular matchup, he's not fighting a Blaine O'Driscoll. He's not fighting a cardio freak, a cardio machine. This is a guy who is a very slow striker. I mean, I thought I was the slowest flyweight on earth. Cody Durden might be the slowest flyweight on earth. Um, and his primary thing is just being mean and being a wrestler. And he may get a takedown on Mokaev, but I don't think he holds him down. I think Mokaev is just too fast, too dynamic. He just moves so well. I think he's going to wear out Cody Durden, and I think he's got the better cardio. The wrestling, I don't want to say better, but it's just more active. He's really about it. So to me, I was trying to find any way I could pick Durden, and I can't here. I like Muhammad Mokaev.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because I was actually doing the same thing. I was watching Mokaev going, he's got the amateur record, he's got the undefeated record. I mean, I think he's only 4-5-0 as a pro, but nothing special. And I'm watching him, and you're right. The thing that worries me about him is that he's shooting these low singles, low doubles. He's drop stepping, and a lot of them he almost like an outside low single, sweep single, whatever you want to call it. And he does a good job of standing up with it, but he's not like, if you watch a lot of the other Dagestani wrestlers, they go low single, but what they do is, I always thought a lot of these Dagestani wrestlers didn't know what they were doing. And I mean, it sounds silly, but it was like, oh, they can only cage wrestle, but they can't wrestle out in the open. And the reason I said that is, a thought that in my head was they would shoot these really bad low singles, really bad low doubles, and they get kind of stuffed out. And I was like, gosh, just looks so bad. But it's actually a tactic, and I don't know, Mokaev, I think it'd be giving him a little bit more credit for this because he does not do this as well as a lot of the other
And he's a
Dags.
London kid. He's not a Dagestani.
Exactly. So what they do is they shoot these low singles, and usually when you shoot a single leg, so if somebody else my height shoots a single leg and their head is kind of either in my hip or in my chest, I will whizzer, okay? And that whizzer is going to stop the back take and all of that. Well, a lot of these Dagestani guys, they shoot really low, almost to the knee. And so what you do to defend, instead of whizzering, they're too low to whizzer, you push the head down. And as you push the head down, they swing around and come up and take your back. And it's a really crafty thing. And forever I thought it was just bad wrestling. It's not. It's a tactic. Whereas they're so low, you cannot whizzer, you cannot defend. And then you slide around the back. So I really like that a lot. Mokaev doesn't do that. He actually will lift the single and kind of run it.
He's more traditional wrestling than the Dagestanis.
Yes, he is. And the thing that I actually like about him with Durden though is he gets put on his back, which is traditionally bad, but he attacks really well with his butterfly hooks. He attacks jiu-jitsu well. He's able to sweep and scramble and get that fight up to the top. And I think that's going to be the difference here. Durden's striking is not great. Um, really by any means. Muhammad is he's just lighter on his feet. It's a little bit cleaner. It's not great, but a little bit cleaner. And I think he's going to have better transitions and better chains and a little bit of better cardio. And I'm not, shouting from the rooftops here, but I think I think it's a good fight for Muhammad. I think Mokaev ends up getting the win here.
Yeah, I think we're both on that one. All right, what do we got
Okay,
next?
let's move on to the next fight. Let me see what we have. Man, Vince Morales and Nathaniel Wood, who you just brought up. I'm gonna bring up Vince Morales first, and we saw him recently knocked out Smolka. Um, Before that, he beat Draco Rodriguez, lost to Chris Gutierrez via leg kicks, um, lost to Benito Lopez by decision. And I think the last time we talked about him for the Smolka fight, we were critical. Um, just, I mean, more of his striking than anything. His striking is unrefined. That said, it looked better against Smolka. I think he went from Oregon, moved on to Syndicate, started training there. Legitimately looked a lot better. Now, he's not clean by any means. He is not polished by any means. He actually has a good reach. It's really weird. He's really big for the division, but top heavy. If you look at his legs, he has these little stick legs, but his upper body is really big, and he has this like really big, long forearms. So he actually has a reach on him, and he looks like he just hits hard, even though it is. I don't want to call it sloppy. I just want to call it unrefined. All right, because it's definitely not clean stand up. On the other side of that, you have Nathaniel Wood, who's, I mean, almost as clean a stand up as it gets. He's beautiful front kicks, just always, especially against opposite stance. He throws that front kick again and again, and then it looks like it's coming up the middle, and he throws it to a low kick, especially on the opposite stance fighter that hits inside. And right when people think, oh, I'm going to catch this kick and counter, he ends up going low, and he ends up knocking the leg out. We saw that with Casey Kenny. We saw it with Castaneda as well. He honestly does all of the right stuff. His stand up is clean. He mixes his range up really well. If he gets taken down, he does the right stuff. He scoots to the fence. He gets back up. His clinch is decent. His cardio is solid. I thought against a Casey Kenny fight, and Casey Kenny is a whirlwind of a human, especially in that third round. Nathaniel Wood started finding his home. Um, Mixes his attacks up. I really like Nathaniel Wood here. I think he's tall. I think he's rangy. I think he has all of the talent to do it. But more than anything, I think he just has really good fight IQ, and I think he has really good in fight reads where he makes the adjustments. He You're gonna have to be a really, really, really top guy to beat Nathaniel Wood. And
Or you're gonna have to catch him.
I think exactly. I don't see somebody catching him. I think this is like Dodson. Dodson caught him. He got lazy, but Dodson can catch anyone. Dodson's kind of a freak of nature. I think this is a fight to build Nathaniel Wood back up, and I like Nathaniel Wood here.
I'm just totally there with you, man. Nathaniel Wood is so freaking good. It makes me mad how good he is. And like you said, the only person that's going to beat him is the top 3 or 4 guys possibly in the division, or it's some bomb like Dodson. And the only reason Dodson even caught him is because he wanted to kill Dodson. He was like, all right, I've had enough. I'm going to chase you down. And that's where most knockouts happen, is when you're trying to kill them, right? It takes 2 to fight. I just love Nathaniel Wood. Watching Nathaniel Wood versus John Castaneda just had me having Wood. It was incredible, especially when you watch what Castaneda did to Miles Johns. Right, he's switching stances, he's giving you looks. John Castaneda legitimately is an amazing strike. I think he's an amazing striker. Like, clean fundamentals from both stances. He's got high IQ. He knows what he's looking at from the stances. And then watching Castaneda get picked apart by a guy in Nathaniel Wood, who he just knew what he was doing so well. Like you said, he was landing the twos. He was landing every strike that you can from opposite stance, and then he was landing leg kicks when they switched back to the same stance. I love everything about Nathaniel Wood. You know, Vince Morales knocked out Luis Smoka last time. I don't even think a Luis Smoka fight starts until he gets flash KO'd and wakes back up when he hits the canvas. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into that one. I just think that, you know, Nathaniel Wood is the better fighter in every aspect. And I'm not taking anything away from Vince Morales. I think he's solid. I think he's going to be a solid UFC guy. I just think this is the spot for Nathaniel. You know, we got the hometown. Um, Vince is short notice ish. I just think Nathaniel Wood is he's got all the goods. He fits the whole betting Bible: fight IQ, cardio, striking, defensive wrestling. Like, to me, this is a don't overthink it. Even though I think Vince is solid.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing is, if you, Nathaniel Wood manages range so well, it is unreal. He throws and then he is back out of range and then he is moving laterally to get his opponents to swing and miss. And when they swing and miss, he counters really well. And he will fire. You hit him, you know, somebody hits him back and he will fire back again. He will not take punches unanswered.
His
He is going to
volume, yeah.
return. Yes, he's going to return fire. So, man, I like Nathaniel Wood here a lot. I not only just here, I like Nathaniel Wood. I think he is just a
In
solid up
general.
and coming guy. Yes, I like him. I like him. I like him. All right, next up we've got Cory McKenna and Elise Reed. Who do you got? What do you got? Where are we at?
Yeah, this one is fascinating. So, first of all, my buddy, well, you know Jared, our buddy Jared,
Hmm.
Jared. Um,
Who's on the Patreon and has his own thread for his killer bets on our Patreon.
he's been picking the Coyotes hockey team, the Arizona Coyotes, every night, and they keep winning every night, and they're underdogs and making us thousands of dollars. It's unbelievable. Like, we keep banking on the Coyotes. It's been amazing. But
And separately, and for you guys on the Patreon, you'll know this. Did you see the picture I posted of him earlier?
yeah, but I think he's more Gegard than Ilia.
He could. If Gegard Mousasi and Ilia Topuria had a child, he would look like Jared Braun, who was on our Patreon, killing it with the hockey bets. But let's get back into this fight.
Okay, so the reason I bring up Jared Braun is because he is Elise Reed's main training partner. Him and his girlfriend Roslani are Elise's main training partners in New Jersey. Okay, that is who is basically doing camp with her. That's who her partners are. Um, I have not seen enough from Elise Reed to confidently pick her. I think she's got the Taekwondo background, which can be tricky at times, but I don't think she's comfortable quite getting hit yet. She's fought a lot of lower level competition. You know, the thing that sticks out on her record is the fight over Jasmine Jasdavicius. First of all, I think Jazz was not that great before she was in the UFC. I thought she got hit a lot. I think she had a lot of holes and a lot of flaws in her game. Now, for Elise to even keep that fight somewhat close where somebody could think she wins, that's impressive. But in this matchup, I think Cory McKenna's got the more solid boxing. I think she's a lot more aggressive, which is important. And I'm seeing Elise Reed get taken down by Jillian DeCourcy. Okay. I love Jillian DeCourcy's Twitter updates, but she is no, Olympic level wrestler. And Elise was losing rounds to Jillian DeCourcy. I think Cory McKenna has been a lifelong fighter. She's the product of Team Alpha Male. She's been getting her game up with Justin Buchholz and Uriah Faber. I like her in the striking. I like her in the wrestling. I just like her in level of competition. I like her all around here. The only thing that concerns me is the age, but I think this is a perfect stylistic matchup, and it's in the UK. So who do they want to win?
Exactly. So I'm going to defer to you on this one. This is one of those I did not tape. And you like how I managed the fight so that I got to the one that you start with that I was not supposed to, that I didn't tape. Yeah, that's not an accident. The only thing I want to say, uh, is Buckholz still with Alpha Male? I thought he was gone. I thought didn't he have a
uh,
falling out with those guys?
he may be, but I did see a picture with her. It was her, Macy Barber, and Justin Buchholz the other day.
Okay.
So I know she's still
Take what
getting
I'm
work
saying
with
with a
them.
grain of salt. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Could be somebody else. Okay, so you guys heard it here. Brandon is the expert on this fight. I know nothing. Uh, this next fight coming up is actually there's 2 fights on this card that I really have a hard read on. This next one is one of them, and it's Timur Valiev and Jack Shore. Um, Valiev, he's 18-2. He's a little bit shorter. For some reason, my computer's not okay. So he's got the last fight win over Raoni Barcelos, win over Martin Day. Trevin Jones, it's considered no contest, but he beat that dude to an inch of his life 10 times over and then got clipped for it. And then surprisingly, he's got a split decision loss to Chris Gutierrez, years and years and years ago in World Series. But that's just something interesting to bring up. On the other side of that, we have Jack Shore. I know Jack Shore, not personally, but I know him because my guy, our guy, Hunter Azure, fought him to a split decision. And I think that was that was definitely the closest Jack Shore has had to a fight, probably in his career. Timur Valiev, he's a volume guy. He is, I, I I can't get a read on him in terms of like his fighting. Like, is he a wrestler? Is he a striker? Um, and actually, more so than anything with his striking, I don't know if I like his striking or if I hate his striking. And not that I actually like or hate it, but he's just all over the place. It doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason for him to throw. It's almost like he is just throw. You want to know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of Mirab Dwashwili, where he is just throwing. He's like, man, let me
Wait,
just throw this shit
who?
at somebody. And
Wait, who?
Mirab Dwashwili. Do you really not know who I'm talking about?
I just wanted to hear you say the name again.
Oh, um, that's the only name I could say. Like Davashvili. No, it's actually Dwashwili. But anyway, Mirab just throws. He throws his power, throws his speed, hopes people die, and then he finds his way inside and grabs him and throws him to the ground. Timur, he kicks a lot. He throws that inside leg kick a lot. His hands, he's a little bit square. He kind of looks like he should get hit more than he gets hit, but it's almost like his untraditional movement stops people's rhythm. Like, he's very unrhythmic. So you can almost not get a read on him. In that fight with Martin Day, he did a really good job of chain wrestling. I think he got one takedown around, and that was a wrap. Uh, honestly, I thought he was honestly, I think he should have lost the Raoni fight. I think Raoni lost that fight. Raoni was just so inactive and just would not pull the trigger. And then when he pulled the trigger, he annihilated him every time he actually did something. But Raoni spent so much time not doing anything that he really handed that fight to Timur on a platter. And then, when he did land, he dropped him, hurt him badly, almost put him out. And I really do like Timur. He's 18-2. He's got the cardio. His striking's not amazing, but it's good. He's very effective. His wrestling's not amazing, but it's good. He's really effective. And I think the biggest thing here is going to be, can Jack Shore handle the volume? And let's see how good Jack Shore's wrestling really is. And on the other side of that, again, is Jack Shore. I mean, I don't know if I could say enough good things about Jack Shore. Long jab. First of all, he's long and tall in the division. Hunter Azure is 5'8-ish, 5'9", somewhere in there. And I swear Jack Shore was an inch or two taller than him. And we were like, holy crap. Like, he was big compared to Hunter. Thick legs, taller, just bigger, which I did not expect that to be the case. His jab is phenomenal. He does a really good job of when people press him, he'll shoot underneath, he'll clinch. He's got a really good long range, and his cage wrestling is magnificent. He does a really good job of he'll shoot a double, shoot a single, body lock, and he scoops the leg, and then he'll either scoop the leg and drop them to the ground a la Damian Maya, or he scoops the leg and pulls them out and ends up taking their back. That scoop leg kind of gets people off balance, and he'll take the back right there. Look at Sean Brady and those guys. They do that really, really well. And honestly, his jiu-jitsu game is great. He's got a ton of wins by rear naked choke. The only thing that worries me about Jack Shore with Timur is, and we saw this, I was watching the Hunter fight recently, and a Hunter put Jack on his back a few times, not from wrestling at all. not from wrestling. Hunter could not take him down. Jack took Hunter down, and Hunter would scramble his way on top. And I wonder if that's going to be the case with Timur. Uh, Jack would work some jujitsu for a little bit, but then he did a really good job of getting back up or getting back on top. I just wonder if that to me is the game is, can Timur get on top of Jack Shore? I I don't think that he can. Now this is a toss-up fight, you guys. This is close. I think both of these guys do all they both meet the Bible. They both have good cardio. They both have good fight IQ. Their
They don't
striking
both
is
meet the
both.
they don't both meet it because there's one factor in here that's not meeting the criteria. It's the chin of Valiev.
Yes. Yes, Valiev is chinny. He is chinny. You are absolutely right. And Jack Shore is not only is Jack Shore not chinny, dude, you can't hit the guy. He is really, really, really hard to hit, and his range is great. And I think that height is going to be the difference. I actually do. But both of these guys really, I mean, yeah, Valiev is a little bit chinny. But other than that, they really do meet a lot of the criteria. These guys are both good guys. I think Jack Shore is just so smooth. And I think that he is going to end up, it's going to be the smoothness and just the fight IQ of finding a way to win that's going to be the difference here.
I I have been so back and forth with this. This was a fight right now. Even we're sitting here talking, and I'm trying to talk myself. I was on Jack Shore, and maybe I'm biased on Jack Shore because I try to fight like Jack Shore. I try to fight exactly like him. I feel like we both have kind of similar cage wrestling. Our jiu-jitsu is very, very similar. It's all back takes. It's all top control and suffocating people. And then I like to throw a jab. That's my main punch is a jab, and he's got a phenomenal, phenomenal jab. So I always look at Jack Shore and say, that's the guy that I want to fight like. And he is just swagger on a different planet. I mean, he just has swagger on a different freaking planet. The guy has beat everybody. I mean, for those of you guys who really, really know MMA, okay, let's take a look at his record. So he beat Mike Figlak as an amateur, who Figlak is probably going to be the next guy who's a Cage Warriors champion to the UFC. I recognize Common Day, who's a kickboxer, Vaughn Lee, Wesley Maya is a really tricky one. Nolan Hernandez, Aaron Phillips, I think is good. Hunter, he's beat a lot of good guys. He's fought in a lot of very big moments, and he's just got swagger like crazy. Now, the thing that was worrying me is just like you said, Timur is crazy because. So last week I told you guys, I said, I think the Bruno Silva, Alex Pereira fight, I think it's going to go past a round and a half, 2 rounds. I think it could go to decision. And the reason I said that is because a traditional kickboxing match, you know what's coming. You can see things, it's right in front of you, and it's, finding the little openings. And I said, it's much harder to spar with somebody it's their first day in kickboxing. I mean, I sparred last week with some beginners. I could barely walk the next day. They kept kicking me because I couldn't understand the timing. And with Timur, he is a phenomenal striker who also treats it like a day one thing. He just throws the most erratic, crazy things that you can think of. So it's like the worst of both worlds. You can't understand the timing. There's no rhyme or reason, but he's actually powerful and with good technique. And I'm thinking, man, I don't think Jack Shore is going to be able to download that and understand it in time for him to come back and win this fight. And by all accounts, it doesn't look like Timur gets that tired. But it did kind of look like that in the Trevin fight for a minute. And he's got the chin problems. And at the very end of the round, Trevin took him down, which to me was just huge. Like these Russian guys, even the strikers, they don't like to be taken down, even just for their own pride. I think in this matchup, I mean, you got a hometown guy, right? Shore Martial Arts. It's in the UK. You got a guy with a phenomenal jab, phenomenal fundamentals, hard to hit, excellent grappling, always finds the back, amazing fight IQ. I just want to take Jack Shore here because I love him so much. Again, it could be a toss-up fight. I could see him getting blitzed, but I got to trust the guy who does more things correctly throughout the entirety of a fight. I like Jack Shore here.
Yeah, the other thing is you kind of see Timur winning all of the moments in the fights. Of course, Reone dropped him. But you don't really see him facing a lot of adversity when he's got to fight out of it. Jack Shore does. I mean, we saw it in the Hunter fight, getting put on his back and having to work through that, get up, stay calm. And, going into the third round of that fight, his corner was like, "Hey, we need to win this third round." They thought he won the first round. That second round was close, and he went out there and he did what he had to do. But he was calm about it. He wasn't freaking out. He wasn't panicking. And in those moments when things got bad, he stayed calm, found a way out, found his way back up, or found his way on top. And I like that. I think that says a lot to be able to face adversity and not panic and just keep cruising. And Jack Shore, I think he's super swaggy. I like him here, and that's all I got.
But damn, the UFC has been doing him no favors. Have you seen his canceled fights? I mean, they want him to lose so badly. It's Umar Nurmagomedov, Saeed Nurmagomedov, Zavad Lavashvili, Khalid Taha. Like they've had him lined up with nothing but murderers row. So they're either trying to test his mettle and say, "Hey, he's the guy," or they're trying to kill him off. And I can't understand why they would do that. But this is a great fight.
Well, I think we saw that Zayed Lavashvili got exposed pretty badly. I
Yeah,
think he would
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
murdered him. But,
But the Umar fight
I
would have been
think
tough, man.
outside of that, yes, outside of that, I definitely agree with you. Um,
And the Saeed fight might have been even
yeah,
tougher as just a stylistic matchup.
yeah. What's funny, I think Hunter was supposed to fight Umar Nurmagomedov, I think twice, and then Shore was supposed to fight him, and then those two ended up fighting each other. So I wonder if that had anything to do with any of it. That's Sean Shelby's matchmaking right there. He's like, I'm just putting these two together.
They
All right,
both said
next up,
yes,
we
so they're
got
gonna go.
Nikita Krylov. Yeah, and then we've got Paul Craig. Kick this one off. I got the last one. Kick off Paul Craig, Nikita Krylov.
Wow. Okay. Well, this one is really interesting to me, and you're just a straight madman if you can trust either side in this one. Like if you can take the, I'm not talking about a long bomb, but if you choose two or three sharp plays, you are a madman to choose either side of this. So we'll start off with Nikita Krylov. The guy is completely unremarkable. I mean, he's not very dangerous to me on the feet. There's very little that he does. It's kind of a lot of lazy jabs, lazy twos, and he's just kind of there, right? Um, what was impressive to me was how he did fight off a lot of these submission attempts, right? He was pretty tight in a Glover to share a guillotine. He's been tight in arm bars, and he always finds his way out. Um, Decent hips, but honestly, not the best wrestler. He leaves a lot to be desired in that area, um, kind of getting ragdolled. And that's not a great place to be with Paul Craig, but Paul Craig also does not have the greatest wrestling of all time. And the thing with Paul Craig, guys, I really hate to tell you guys this, but jujitsu is just not real. It just doesn't exist. It's like cryptocurrency. It's just a thought in your head. It doesn't really exist. And Paul Craig loves to think that it works, and it doesn't freaking work. He's losing a lot of rounds trying this stuff. He's falling to his back. He's pulling guard, and I will say Paul Craig has honestly one of the more impressive offensive guards that I've seen in the UFC. I mean, he's constantly attacking. He does catch submissions, um, but if there was ever a fight that Krylov is built to win by just existing, it's this one. Because Paul Craig is constantly going to make bad decisions. He's going to end up on his back. He's going to try stuff from guard. And against a guy that he's going to have a tough time submitting in Nikita Krylov, Krylov has to do the bare minimum to win this fight. Just don't get tapped. Throw a couple punches from the top, and he's going to cruise to a decision here. Um, Weirdly, I think Paul Craig's path to victory could be on the feet. The way that I'm watching this, I actually think his striking is probably better than Nikita Krylov's. He throws, powerful punches. He's aggressive. He probably moves a little bit better, and he's just not so lazy with his striking. Just Krylov's just so freaking lazy. I like Krylov to win here. This will go in a long bomb for me, but nothing I feel great about.
It's funny. I agree with you on the decision, but I kind of disagree on the overall analysis, like just of everything. So, um, and not that you're wrong in necessarily what you're saying they do, but my take on what you're saying they
Well,
do is
give
a
it to
little
me. Let me
different.
let me hear it. What do you got?
I'm giving. So first of all, it's so funny because I was gonna say I could never bet on somebody who pulls guard, even if he has 18 submission victories all by pulling guard. I couldn't do it. It's too risky. like you said, jujitsu doesn't exist, except for with Paul Craig, it kind of
It
does.
kind of
And
does.
he's the only person who, I mean, that I can think of off the top of my head, who pulls guard regularly and is effective with it. And he'll pull
Only
guard, and
Ronnie
if he
Yaya,
doesn't
but
get,
it's a different style.
yes, Ronnie will, but he'll like
Come
shoot
to the
in,
top.
drag him in, yeah, pull him in. But Craig just will be on the cage and just straight up jump to guard, pull it. If he doesn't get what he wants, he'll attack a heel hook, and he uses that to come back up. And I actually really like the way that Paul Craig implements his jujitsu. I wouldn't suggest it. I mean, I wouldn't go about it. I want to love him for exactly that. I can't get behind him because it's too risky the way that he does it, but I love it. I love it. I love it. What you said about him striking, I think actually might be true, is not that he um, is necessary. First of all, his striking has gotten a lot better over
Yeah.
his tenure in the UFC. It's gotten a lot better. The thing with Paul Craig that he does is he just throws hard. He throws with conviction, and Krylov doesn't do that. He pitter patters. So that I agree with. That he just Paul Craig throws. Two things that I think are going to be the deciding factor in this fight, and I'll get to the rest of my analysis here before but after these is the first thing is cardio. Paul Craig gasses. He gasses. He throws it all into that one round. I'm going to try and submit you basket, and if he doesn't get it, he fades out pretty hard. And the other thing is whoever gets the takedown. Paul Craig, I actually like. I mean, he took down Ankalaev, or I'm sorry, Krylov. Krylov took down
Krylov
Ankalaev.
did.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Paul Craig. Gosh, who was I watching? He was shooting in these low. Oh, it was
Drop
Shogun.
leg doubles.
That's who,
Yeah.
yeah, it was Shogun Hua, but this is interesting. Not only is it a drop leg double, which we naturally think is bad, is he shoots low, but then he runs it and bundles the legs, which is just a different. It's not a traditional drop step into a double trying to turn the corner. It's more of a Jordan Burroughs. And don't get me wrong, you guys. I'm not saying
Paul
he's Jordan
Craig is
Burroughs.
Jordan
I'm saying
Burroughs.
yeah, not at all. I'm saying that he shoots, and when Jordan Burroughs shoots and gets stuffed out on that initial shot, he knee slices again and again and again and bundles people's legs and ends up finishing the shot. And we saw that with Craig. Just went out there, just blitzed it and went. I don't think it's horrible. It's not great wrestling, but in MMA, the way that he times it well and the way he bundles it, he comes up on top. Krylov is exactly the same. He took down Ankalaev. Um, he looks great on top. He took down Jan Blachowicz just beautifully right off the bat. I mean, right in the open, sat him down. Took down Ankalaev on the cage, sat him down. Um, he looks amazing. Honestly, that Jan Blachowicz fight, he was looking great until Jan was coming up, and then he jumped to a guillotine. The second he was on his back, Jan passed and was just looked 3 weight classes above him and just wore him out. Then you have Glover Teixeira, who took him down, and Glover is all over him. Glover is phenomenal on top. And then not only did Krylov end up defending everything, he got on top, threw
He was
Glover
winning
in a
rounds.
tight submission, almost finished it. His top game is really good. I think his wrestling's actually solid. I think his top game is phenomenal. I think his bottom, it's so weird to have somebody who is that good in a jujitsu position and then that bad in the opposing jujitsu position. It's really strange how bad he is off of his back in comparison to how good he is on top. I think it's crazy. I think you're right with the striking is he's just unremarkable, but he's more durable and he's got better cardio. And I think if Paul Craig can't submit him early, then I think cardio comes into play, and I think Krylov ends up winning a decision. I don't know if I could bet this fight because Paul Craig is a freaking wild man,
Well,
but
and if
I
Paul
I
Craig
I
didn't have as good of a guard, right? That I guess that's where I was kind of going with this fight is that the thing that Nikita Krylov does well is getting on top and beating people up because his striking is unremarkable. But okay, now he takes Paul Craig down. Now he's where Paul Craig is the best. Where he's the best is also where Paul Craig is the best. And now we're just deciding who wins there. And
yeah,
I could see Paul Craig winning on the feet. I could see Paul Craig winning from his back, and the only place I could see Krylov winning is on top. So it's just like I think Craig has more ways to win. He's got these one trick pony things, and I think Krylov is just hangs around and is just generally
yeah.
more solid. Um,
But we see generally the guys who can hang around longer are generally the
yeah,
ones who win. When it comes down
I'm
to a
with you.
one-trick pony, and especially in like the Krylov thing, it's not like Krylov is just a striker and he's got to watch out for the jujitsu. Krylov's a jujitsu guy as well. He has good jujitsu. We saw it with Yan. Yan was throwing up arm bars and triangles, and Krylov defended those easily and adequately. I think Craig's got to Hail Mary this, whether it's a strike or a submission early. And if he doesn't Hail Mary it, I think Krylov's just cardio just pushes it through.
All right, we're on it. I agree with you there.
Man, so this next one I did not tape. Shamil Abdurakhimov and Sergei Pavlovich. Why don't you tell us about these two? I don't want to give bad reads over here.
Yeah, this is a tough one too. I don't think this should be a tough one, but it kind of is a tough one. Shamil, we just saw get knocked out by Chris Dawkins. He's 40 years old. And before that, he had a very, very long layoff. He's almost on the Ray Borg train with how many canceled bouts that he's had. 5 in a row.
Right.
A bunch of those were Chris Dawkins, though. Um, let's see. And then Sergei Pavlovich has been off for a very long time. He's 29 years old. He's got a bunch of first round knockouts. I I think this is an easy one. I think this is a don't overthink it. But man, Sergei Pavlovich is just he's the most stiff guy I've ever seen in my life. He's got decent hands, like he's got just solid, decent punches. Um, he looks to have some wrestling. I had to go back because I hate betting on guys that are all first round finishes. To me, it just doesn't give you a body of work. And then I went back to this fight with Mikhail Makataktakian, which is actually a 5 round fight. But it's not like a lot of action happened in the 5 rounds to be able to judge his cardio or his wrestling. He just kind of walked forward and threw 2 jabs around and got it was a 5 round sparring match. And it was embarrassing. Even the commentators were like, man, I like to see punches at a fight. It was horrible. But I think all things aside, I think he's probably the better wrestler. The one really vulnerable part we saw in his game was against Overeem, just against somebody who was just more athletic and more dynamic, tipped him over. If he falls on his back, I mean, we're in some trouble here. And
He's a
I hate
turtle.
bet. He's a turtle. I hate betting on a guy that if he falls on his back, that's cardio and that's you're losing a round if not getting finished. So uh, again, I think this is going in a long bomb, but I don't think this is something solid we can play. I like Pavlovich for the knockout. I think he beats up Shamil on the feet, and I think his defensive wrestling, as long as he keeps things in front of him, is good enough to defend any takedowns. And eventually, he's going to crack the chin of the 40-year-old. I like not love this one. I like Sergey here.
Okay. Interesting. All right, next up, we've got Mike Grundy and Makwan Amirkhani. And just for you guys out there who are hating on Camuela, he fought Makwan Amirkhani on like 8 days' notice and beat him. And so again, what you saw the other night is not indicative of Camuela's full skill set. He fought Makwan last minute and beat him. So there's that. But we've got two wrestlers here, and we've got a Finnish wrestler. And it's funny because I didn't know how good of a wrestler Makwan was leading up to the Camuela fight. And it's weird watching tape on him for Camuela. I was like, man, like what? How does he get these guys down? Like I remember watching the Edson fight and the Shane Burgos fight and these other fights, and I'm going, like he just grabs them and it looks horrible, but they're down. Like what is going on here? It's just such a weird thing to me to watch visually. And on our way out, right before we hit the walk, I heard somebody in the commentator's desk say that Makwan had like, I forget the number,
1,000
200,
matches.
400,
He's like
500.
Hickson
Is that-
Gracie.
Yeah, 1,000.
300
It
no
might have been
record.
500, might have been 1,000 wrestling matches, whatever it was. And they're like, oh yeah, he's a Finnish national wrestling champion. I was like, oh, okay. So okay. Now on the other side of that, we have Mike Grundy, who's like a British wrestling champion, national champion. I don't know exactly the levels of wrestling in England, like what you would constitute national champ, or if it's a junior or whatever. But you've got two wrestlers going at it right here. Um, the biggest thing that I see here is, first of all, Grundy is a lot more comfortable on his feet. He's not great on his feet, but he's good. He's solid, good, decent boxing, clean. He's willing to strike. We saw that. Gosh, who was Lando Venata. So that was a really close fight. Lando is tough
Was it
as
a really close
nails,
fight?
and well, I mean, it was split decision. I mean, is
It
just
should
the
not have
the
been a
judges and stuff.
guys, let me
It
say
should
this.
not have
That
been.
was the worst scorecard of all time. 30-27 for Mike
Yes.
Grundy in that fight is disgusting.
It absolutely is. But Mike Grundy had some very nice moments in that fight.
He
He had
did.
some really good wrestling. He had some takedowns. So yeah, no, Lando won that fight, but Grundy is solid. He's solid. He had his moments in that fight. The issue here is Makwan's cardio. He goes so balls out that, man, he is a first round or not fighter. And I think somebody like Grundy, whose wrestling is phenomenal and who can wrestle and doesn't get gassed out and who doesn't mind striking and is a pretty good striker, considering the situation. Man, I like Grundy here I mean, the biggest rule of the Bible is cardio, and Makwan does not have the cardio, and Mike Grundy has the cardio. And I think Grundy is probably a little bit of the better wrestler anyway. I think Makwan's jiu-jitsu is better, and I think Makwan mixes in his chokes and his darces, those front chokes better than Grundy does. But I think I think in a wrestling match, Grundy probably wins. Uh, I think the wrestling is going to cancel itself out. But even if Makwan is the better wrestler and wins, that wrestling is going to take his cardio. And I think Grundy, let Makwan have round one, and Grundy's going to win round two and round three.
I am with you. This is one of my favorite plays of the week. If Grundy was like 3 years younger, he would hit every single part of this betting Bible because he is 35, I believe. Um, but that is first of all, the Lando Venata fight. I could watch that every day for the rest of my life. I would be a happy man because, first of all, the takedown defense, I guess you don't even call it takedown defense because he got down technically, but Grundy could not control Lando Venata for a freaking second in that fight. It was some of the most gorgeous MMA I've ever seen. Like, just could not catch a hold of him and then beat him up on the feet. A phenomenal performance by Lando. And now you're going to be like, all right, Lando's some trouble because you can't take him down. Now you got to go where he's comfortable. Um, but I think on the other side of the token, what was so impressive to me was 20 missed takedown attempts by Grundy. 20 missed takedown attempts, and the guy's still bouncing around throwing bombs by the end of the third round. I mean, I missed 2 takedown attempts. Oh my God. You got to you got to resuscitate me. It's horrible. 20 missed takedown attempts, and the guy's bouncing around trying to win the third, throwing bombs, still shooting. Unbelievable. So I don't know who's saying Mike Grundy has bad cardio, but I don't think that's the truth at all. Um, Makwan has bad cardio. Makwan has horrible cardio. Makwan is not comfortable on the feet. I got to spend a week with Makwan when he was fighting Kamu, and just the look in his eyes, I could tell that you can tell when you see somebody hungry, right? Miguel Baeza was there, and he was fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio. I could tell, I could see it in his eyes. He wanted that so bad, and we saw that fight of the night performance. I mean, you could just see a hungry kid. You look at Makwan, even things that he was saying was like, "Oh, okay, good luck tomorrow, brother." Like to his opponent, like I don't want to talk to my opponent that way. And I could be reading into everything way too much, but he just doesn't have the eyes of somebody that wants to be in there. He doesn't have the swagger of old Makwan like he used to. He had a good round against Lerone Murphy, who can't wrestle and made a really horrible decision. And then the second round came out gassed, didn't even throw a punch and shot from halfway across the ring and got brutally KO'd. It's not hard to really see the shots coming from Makwan. And if you look at his record, he has never fought a wrestler before. I think Grundy's got those hard hips. He has never fought a wrestler before. I think Grundy's the better wrestler, the better striker, better cardio, better fight IQ. Um, I'm surprised that Makwan has anybody in his corner. He just seems like kind of a rogue warrior. So, no hate to Makwan. I'm going to cash this ticket on Grundy.
Yeah, and looking at Grundy's record, so he's on a 2-fight losing streak, to Lando Venata and Musfar Evloev, who, I mean, who he took down right off the bat, picked him up, dumped. I mean, come on. I just I think this is an easy Grundy win. Now that said, I mean, Makwan can go out there and fly and knee somebody. You know, he does that every fight. Goes out there and flying switch knees, people, and just, I mean, you know. But it's been years since he's done that. I just when you see guys winning in that dynamic fashion, it's usually early in their career, especially earlier in their UFC career.
Darren
You don't
Till.
generally see that. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So you don't see that later on. I think Grundy is kind of the solid play here.
Oof, it might be one of my favorite of the week, and the odds are
Yeah.
pretty nice too.
Yep. Hey, so next up we got Jai Herbert and Ilia Topuria. And this fight is another one. There's so many reads to this fight that general wisdom is kind of it's a little weird. Why don't you tell us about this fight? I am so interested in this fight with 1,000 different reasons. I love it. I love it. I love it. Tell us about Ilia. Tell us about Jai.
So you planned this one on purpose to not only give you the ones, give me the start the ones that you didn't tape, but you wanted me to start
No,
on Ilya.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I did that on purpose.
Well, all right. If you guys remember, Ilya lost that fight to Charles Jourdain. Actually, when I was out in LA, I got to hang out with Ilya all week. He had custom jackets for the team. He had a big posse. He was, sunglasses, all this stuff, and forgot to pack a sauna. Like just horrible. It's funny. And then after the fights were over, Vanessa won. Awesome. You and I were at IHOP, and we saw Ilya. After the weight debacle. Who was taller, me or Ilya?
Man, you were probably like 8 inches taller than him. I don't even know how
I,
that's
I
possible.
I think I was taller than Ilya, guys. I'm 5'7". I'm a flyweight. Ilya is moving up to 155 pounds here. The guy is 5'6", 5'6.5", maybe. I mean, he's a tiny human being. He's kind of a pumped up bantamweight. So this is a very interesting fight. Against Jourdain, I love Jourdain there. I think Jourdain has that kind of like game ferocity, like I don't care, I'm going to be in your face, and I could see it playing out Jourdain's way really really well. Um, Now he's moving up in weight, which is interesting. That's a factor. I don't think he's the lock that everybody thinks he is. I told you guys this last time. Zalal in that fight laid there like a grappling dummy while Ilya kind of spun around him, still got reversed 100 times, gassed out, was getting beat up in the third round. Originally I thought that was an amazing performance. When you go back and watch it again, it wasn't phenomenal. Go back and watch the Damon Jackson fight. Damon Jackson, who's not, the world's greatest kickboxer, was tagging Ilya on the feet. Now, Ilya was setting things up, going to the body, then working the head, but Ilya was ready to empty the tank. Watch that fight. He wasn't going to leave anything for the second round. Ilya was going in there for a first round knockout. He was ready to empty the tank on Damon Jackson. And what I worry about here, I think that the way I think Ilya doesn't know how to fight quite yet. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I mean, you look at his hands; they're great hands. His jiu-jitsu looks solid enough, but I don't think he knows how to fight yet. And I think if Damon Jackson was lighting him up on the feet, and Damon is long and rangy, but he's also very stationary when he strikes. He doesn't move quite like Jai does. Jai is moving side to side always. He's got that kind of Leon Edwards style. He's got very long punches. He has pretty decent power. Um, if Ilya can't catch him and he's just throwing bombs, trying to get Jai out of there early, I wonder what happens in round 2 and round 3. Now, Jai is, I mean, Jai's got the worst takedown defense in the UFC. And it's sad because he's so tall, which should be a huge advantage. Just even uh, jumping around on one leg should be a huge advantage for him. But he's got the worst takedown defense. But the thing that he does do is he does try to stand back up every chance that he gets. He's got decent enough hips. He's got decent enough jiu-jitsu where a lot of times he will reverse position. So the part that I worry about for Ilya here is just him being so freaking small and shooting a double leg. And he's not the greatest wrestler of all time. and Jai just giving good hips and ending up on top. And I worry about the more wrestling exchanges we see, how much more tired Ilia is going to be than Jai in rounds 2 and round 3. And I think Jai's kickboxing is good, man. I think he's a Cage Warriors champion. I think he's a solid striker. So there's a lot of different reads here. To me, this is an avoid. I know everybody in the world is going to put Ilia in the parlays. I hope it works for you. To me, this is just a complete avoid because Ilia is going to get exposed one day. It might not be this day because I do think Jai sometimes is a bit of a quitter. He's got some quit in him, but uh, I would just be very, very, very careful with this one, guys. Ilia is 5 foot nothing. He's a bantamweight, can't make weight. Just had a botched weight cut. He empties the clip, and he's fighting a cardio machine and a guy who's tall and rangy. So I like Jai.
It's funny you say that because I was watching tape on this, and I had a lot of the same similar reads, a lot of the same thoughts. And then I looked at the odds, and gosh, I think Ilya was like minus 400 or something like that. Or I was like, what? And you actually said it. You said it, but you didn't explain it. You said he's a bantamweight. Well, Ilya used to fight at bantamweight, but then he missed weight for, I think it was a Brave FC title fight. So he won the fight, but didn't get the belt. He missed weight at bantamweight. So that's what moved him up to 145. Then he's at 145 in the UFC and misses by like, what was it, like 7, 8 pounds? Like something, I forget.
The steroids work too well.
Yeah, but it was enough for them to cancel the fight. I mean, it was a really, I couldn't believe that it was as much as it was. And I don't agree that Ilya doesn't know how to fight. I think he does. I think he's very good everywhere. And I think those just the instincts take over. But I really, I like his body work. He's always ripping the body. His level changes are great. I actually don't think he's as good of a wrestler as people think he is. That's the thing that I see. That's the biggest read, is that I don't know that he's as good of a wrestler, and I don't know that he's good of a cage wrestler. And you said it. Zalal put him on his Zalal reversed him a few times. But a lot of those weren't even reversals. It's Ilya sitting to guillotines. And you're like, what are you doing? Why are you on top sitting in guillotines? We just mentioned Nikita Krylov just a little bit ago. He's on top of Jan Blachowicz and then goes for a guillotine and just gets annihilated for it. I mean, man, it is generally a bad idea to be in any sort of neutral or dominant position and jump to a guillotine, an armbar, a leg lock. Generally, those people are losing those fights. Um, Jai Herbert has a 77-inch reach. Ilia Topuria has a 4-inch reach. I mean, he's fighting at 155 pounds. And you said it, Jai Herbert, people are looking at the Renato Moicano fight when Herbert just fell over every single takedown and Moicano would just mount him. Yeah, but if you go back a little bit, I think it was Jack Grant. He fought him in Cage Warriors.
Who's good? Who's
And
really good?
who's really good. And he took Jai
Jiu-jitsu
down,
black
and
belt.
Jai got right back up. I mean, every time he was just butt scooting, sitting up, fighting to come back up. Moicano, I think, is better. I think he's probably better all
You
around
know
than
what?
Jack Grant.
You know what a little bit the difference is there though is Moicano's a lot more body locks than traditional wrestling takedowns, and Ilia is traditional wrestling takedowns, which the British and the UK guys are much better at. Look at Leon Edwards; he's constantly defending double legs better than he is body locks.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you're right, and I am with you on avoid this like the plague. Conventional wisdom says Ilya gets on top, passes the guard, mounts him, and beats him up. All right, but I think we're overestimating Ilya's wrestling by a little bit. And does size matter that much? Does size, I mean, do we have weight classes for a reason? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out if a 135er who just decides to lift weights and eat can really do it. And we've seen that before. We saw it with Frankie Edgar. I mean, Frankie Edgar did it. He is really a 35er. And, I mean, he was a 155-pound champion. Most guys aren't Frankie Edgar. I got to avoid this. I'm so torn. My brain says, yeah, Ilya's going to take him down and throw him down and go. And then I'm like, man, but that size and range, and Jai Herbert is a really, really good striker. He is not
He
a
is
bad
good.
striker at all. He is not. He is cleaner than Yusuf Zalal by a long shot. He hits harder than him. He's cleaner than Damon Jackson. He hits harder than him. I think his and he's taller and bigger than both of those guys too. Now on the other side of that, Ilia took that Yusuf Zalal fight on like a week notice in Fight Island. So
With
I
COVID and all that
think,
stuff, but yada yada yada.
yeah, so I think that performance, him getting tired, those bad reads, I think we're overvaluing that a little bit, but he did take it at last minute. I can't touch this fight, at least not now. I may watch a little bit more tape, um, and throw something on the Patreon for some of the guys if I find a read. But as of now, man, I not only I don't want to bet on it, I don't even want to pick a winner.
I might be taking a shot on Jai here. I thought I only wanted Jourdain, but I might be taking a shot on Jai here. Why not? Why not? I think that this is the farthest thing from a lock ever. There's too many unknowns here. Why not take a shot on Jai? Cage Warriors champion in his backyard.
Hey, I do not hate that call at all. I do not hate that call at all. This is I think the hardest fight on the card to call because I do think Ilya really is that good. I mean
He's
I
got
really do
skills.
like
He
Ilya.
does.
He really is good. I don't think his wrestling is quite as good as people think it is, and I think the size could very well be. This is the UFC saying, "Hey, asshole, make weight. We're punishing you. Um, win, lose, or draw. You better make weight next time, and maybe we'll talk about you returning back down in a weight class."
All right. What do we got?
Man, next up, so we've got Molly McCann and Luana Carolina, and not surprisingly, this is the other fight that I did not tape for this. Um, I love Molly. Uh, I mean, she is solid. I love Molly. I didn't tape this fight, but I've seen so much of her fights in the past. She throws freaking meatballs. Um, Man, you put her on her back, she definitely has a hard time with some better grapplers. Um, but man, I love Meatball. I don't know who do you got here. What are our reads?
I got Meatball too. I man, I saw people say, "Oh, how many times are they going to give us a wrestler against Luana?" And Luana's an underdog, big time. And I'm like, I don't think that's the way to win this fight at all. Like, not even a little bit for Molly. I think if Molly tries to wrestle, that's going to be the worst thing that she can do. And the reason that I cannot bet this fight is because I don't know what Molly's going to do. We've seen her go for takedowns and exchange these things in other fights, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to be like gentle, but I think Luana Carolina is not very good. I just think she's not very good. She, like we talked about, she hangs around long enough. She throws enough front kicks, has enough volume, but she is constantly reaching for punches. Her chin is up. She's closing her eyes. She has so many fundamental errors in her striking. It's alarming. Like how she got to the UFC beating that girl who hasn't won a fight really since then. It's not good. And if there was ever a fight that I would say Molly McCann is teed up to win because she's got a lot of flaws herself. She's not going to win every fight. I would say it's this fight. I like the boxing of Molly. She does do really good slipping punches. She's rolling and coming over the top with those meatballs. And what a better matchup for her than Luana Carolina, who's reaching for punches and closes her eyes and doesn't see him coming. Well, boop, right over the top. I think a couple things. I think people overvalue the loopy win, um, which for Luana was a great win. I definitely think that was a great win, and I think Loopy is very very talented, but I don't think her cage wrestling is where it needed to be to take down a girl who's so much taller and bigger than her. I think she had a couple weight cuts in a really short period of time, and I actually called Luana as a dog there. I said I think Luana's horrible, but if Loopy tries to wrestle, she's going to lose this fight. If Loopy would have just gone in there throwing bombs, she would have had a better chance. But Loopy's also 5'0". Meatball Molly, 5'4". I like her. I like the way she rolls, slips. What do you got?
Didn't Loopy go up? I mean, she took that fight on short notice,
Yeah,
and wasn't it up a weight class?
yeah.
Yeah, that was up a weight class. So you got to kind of exactly. Again, they're weight classes for a reason,
There's weight
and
classes for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and Luana's so much taller, and, like you said, Lupi's cage wrestling is not phenomenal. Um, yeah, and Molly is. I think Molly is tough. I think she's had a tough road. I think she's fought a lot of good people, and again, I think the meatballs, just hooks and hooks, and she swings.
Honestly,
Um, yeah, and
what
she'll
crushes
do
that
that for
Muay
3
Thai style
rounds.
better than chasing somebody down and boxing them up? To me, this is almost the exact same read as when in the Elise Reed and Cory McKenna fight. You got somebody with good boxing tight punches that's going to forward pressure you versus kind of that long rangy striker. And we also have to consider this too, right? It's going to be in London. Uh, the crowd in London is going to be bananas. There's only two people that they just cannot get enough of on this card, and it's Paddy Pimblett and it's Molly McCann. Those are the people. If you ever watch the Cage Warriors fight, you know what the crowd is like when those people are on. The crowd's going to play a factor, the judging, hometown. There's so many things that are going to point to Molly McCann here. Besides the skills on top of it. I like Molly here. We'll have to see how the rest of the night plays out, but I'll look at making a play on this one.
Okay. I think there are some reads here. I think there are some reads and some plays in terms of betting. Um, you know, the I just got to dig a little bit deeper before I throw them out there because, like I said, I did not have time to tape this one for the show, but I will tape it for the Patreon. You guys, for my
That means go
picks
sign
on
up. Go sign
Friday or
up for the
Saturday.
Patreon.
Okay, next up we got Takashi Sato in the return of Gunnar Nelson, my twin today. Um, Gunnar, do it for us. Do it for our dad. Do it for our mom. Do it for our people. We need this win. And, I was wondering, I actually had to do some research. I was like, why in the hell has Gunnar been out for 2.5, almost 3 years? And then I found out he had some rib injuries training with the mountain from Game of
Oh,
Thrones. And, she said that was one of them, which, I mean, for that long, 2.5 years, I mean, those must have been some major rib injuries if keeping you out for that long. That said, I think sometimes it's good for people like Gunner who are these specialists who have, had been rocked a little bit or might need a refresh. Man, sometimes it's not a bad idea to get a mid-career, um, kind of refresher,
little time off.
especially when you've been active, and he's still young. If he was older, of course, it's not going to work out for him. I think what is he, 33 now, something along those lines. Yeah, 33. So he's no spring chicken, all right, but he's not 40. So, I like Gunner. I like his stance. I like his karate-ish stance. And on the other side of that, even before we get to Gunner, let's talk about Sato, who again, who kind of has the same, I wouldn't say guard,
Yeah.
but kind of bounces. He has that same like stance. He kind of hops up and down. Um, his striking is clean. His takedown defense is almost non-existent when people really run it and go. My issue with Sato is inactivity, and I don't mean it in terms of how often he fights. I mean it in the fight.
In the
He
fight.
tries to count. Yes, he tries to counter too much. He tries to make the read perfect, and he moves a lot, and he waits a lot, and when he lands, a lot of times he'll land clean because he's really trying to find that one shot. But then a lot of times there's just nothing going on. And in boxing, the general rule of thumb is when people have there's no clear winner. All right. Okay, somebody's landed about the same amount of shots. You and I both land 5 punches, good, clean punches around. Almost always the judges are going to give it to the guy who threw more volume. And it doesn't really matter if they're landing as much. I mean, of course, big shots land. But all things equal, the person who threw more is going to win. And that's my thing with Takashi is he just doesn't he just doesn't throw a lot. He just waits so much. And then we saw it. Who did we see just take him right to the ground?
Baeza.
Oh, it
Miguel
was Baeza.
Baeza.
Yeah, it was Baeza, who honestly I think picked him apart standing as well, just kinda cleaned him up. Now he had a significant speed factor that, Gunnar is not gonna have that speed factor. But when he wanted to take him down, he took him down, submitted him. That was a wrap. Uh, the thing that Gunnar does is he does a good job of evading damage. Uh, and he closes distance so well. We saw that with Leon Edwards. He is just on the outside. And when he decided it was time to grapple, he was just in. He was in, he'd shoot, he'd grab, he just blitzes. He blitzes the way karate guys punch, but he blitzes and finds the clinch. He dragged Leon down a few times right in a row. Got elbowed, recovered well. He will end up on his back. He'll end up in these, beautiful half guard sweep transitions. I think Gunnar's grappling. If the layoff didn't really mess with him, I think this is kind of an easy win for Gunnar. Not an easy win. I don't want to say easy win. I want to say a clear win for Gunnar here.
I want to say an easy win. A picture came out of Nathaniel Wood today, all looking vascular, and maybe at the end of the show we can get your take on that if you have seen it. I know a lot of people are worried, and I think we talk about this most of the time. It's the rehydration. It's not so much the weight cut. But anyways, it got me thinking like, okay, well then who could be my anchor for my parlays? And I think it's Gunnar. I think it's Gunnar here. I don't I don't see I don't see a path to victory for Sato. And you said it exactly. First of all, they're opposite stance, right? Gunnar a lot of time is orthodox, and Sato is going to be southpaw. So the distance covered is already going to be so much, right? And we see the straight punches work, but both of them fight the exact same way. They're both light on their feet, and they both manage range really, really well. They're both kind of in and out, especially Gunnar. Um, so you said he doesn't take much damage. And the thing that I was noticing with Sato is in a lot of his fights, it's not like he's getting blown out of the water on the feet, but he's getting pushed to the cage constantly. And he's spending so much time pushed up against the cage. And who pushes you against the cage more than Gunnar Nelson? That's how he gets his takedowns. And then once it hits the ground, I think people forget how good Gunnar Nelson is on the ground. Um, I-
He
I remember
submitted
hearing the
Jeff
legends.
Monson.
I remember hearing the legends back in the day of like I can't remember something with Henzo Gracie or something. He's like some phenomenal black belt and was doing crazy stuff as a brown belt. But just watch him. His hips are phenomenal. His control is insane. You know he's as strong as they come. Um, his jujitsu legitimately, I think, is world class. And he last fought before I had even started taping film like crazy. I just remember him being Conor McGregor's buddy. I didn't realize how good Gunnar is. There's a lot of unknowns here. With the layoff and the jitters. Like your first fight back is going to be in the O2 Arena in the middle of London. Like that's got to be a lot of nerves. That being said,
But
that
he's
dude looks
from
dead.
Iceland. Yeah, he doesn't have emotion.
His
Like, I mean,
eyes
does
are,
he? Like,
yeah.
he's like a White Walker.
Exactly. So it bodes well. He's got like just dead in the eyes. He doesn't care about anything. I don't think he needs the money because he probably just eats ice cubes all day, every day. But matchup wise, there just couldn't be a better matchup for him. A guy who offers little to no takedown defense, gets submitted every fight, not high volume, not crazy power. Like to me, this has to be probably the lock of the card. All things all things equal. The layoff is the big thing, but all things equal, I love Gunnar Nelson here.
Yeah, I think this fight and the Mike Grundy fight are just solid, anchor picks, anchor parlay picks.
Nathaniel Wood to me still.
Yeah, I think Nathaniel Wood is as well. But I think if you really, gosh, yeah, man, that might even, yeah, all three of those are just solid picks right here. All right,
All
man. Well,
right.
those are solid reads. I think we're on the same page. And then we got Paddy the Batty, and Rodrigo Vargas. Um, Paddy Pimblett, gosh, they want to push, and the UFC loves them. Ireland loves him. I mean, he is just the next. They're trying to find the next Conor McGregor, and it's funny because he's actually in a little bit of a heat right now with his Twitter. Have you been paying attention to that? Him talking trash about Russia going into Ukraine, and said, that it was good that Russia went into Georgia and basically eradicated all of them. I mean, it was a big thing. Ilia Topuria almost got into a fight with him. It was kind of a wild. He's getting a little lippy on Twitter, getting a little lippy on social media. I don't know if it's real, if it's just, kind of Conor McGregor caricature-ish, but he's getting noticed. He is getting noticed. He is getting noticed. Um, my issue with Paddy is not even my issue with Paddy. We'll get to that in a second. Is like I said, he is Conor McGregor. I love. I've always loved Conor McGregor. I've always loved his striking. When we had prime Conor McGregor before he thought he was just a boxer, when he fought Max Holloway, when he fought Dennis Seaver, even he fought Aldo and Mendez. I mean, everybody forgets the difference in that Mendez fight were the front kicks. We call the bunion kick, which is like a teep kick but angled off to the side. I mean, that is our staple in our gym, which I love, and I got that from Conor McGregor watching. I was like, "Dude, he doesn't throw it straight. He arcs a bunion kick like a traditional roundhouse tie kick, but then he uses the ball of his foot to stab it in just like you would a teep kick." And his striking is just, it's that good. That said, he never would have been champion if he just fought whoever was in front of him. He fought the right people to build himself up and do it that way. Um, we're seeing Sean O'Malley right now, who I love. I know him a little bit. I'm not great friends with him or anything, but I know Sean. I really like him. When he fought Chris Matino, I forgot who he's supposed to fight, and they dropped out. The entire division, the entire UFC roster lined up to fight him. And either the UFC or him or whatever said no to everybody, and they chose Chris Matino to come in last minute. And we saw what Guido Canetti just did to Matino. Sean O'Malley is taking that same route. He's being very careful with his matchups, and good for him. Make the money, get the matchups, build your way up, take better fights as they come. Hey, let's do it. This is Paddy Pimblett, and this is what they're giving him right here. They're looking at Vargas, who just got out wrestled easily. Heck, Rongju, out wrestled him. Alex De Silva just threw him down with just such ease. And you have Pimblett, who's not a great wrestler actually, but is a really good grappler. His
Yeah.
he takes backs and
He
chokes people
finds
out.
the back. Yep. That's
He
it.
finds the back and chokes him out, and he mauls people once he gets them to the ground. But his wrestling is not great. It's really not that good. And Vargas's wrestling is, I think, actually better than people think it is. We saw him with Brock Weaver just take him down, decided to illegally knee him in the face like a real ass twat.
Crazy.
Um,
Yeah.
but um, one, I think people are over or underestimating Vargas's wrestling because he was just so aggressive and pushing forward at such a clip against I just said it, Alex. Was it Alex De Silva? That he was almost getting himself taken down. I mean, so that was almost comical, just in that sense. And then he's just so wild that we saw Rongju and De Silva take him down multiple times with catching kicks, just catching kicks and going. Um, I think it is the right matchup for Paddy to win, but man, Paddy's stand up, he looked better in his UFC debut, but if you watch his Cage Warriors, man, that chin is up. He is punching with his shoulders moving backwards, chin in the air, getting rocked. He got rocked in his debut. His stand up leaves a lot to be desired. His offensive wrestling leaves a lot to be desired. Um, he is a big physical guy. He mauls you when he's on the ground. Um, I think he is probably going to end up getting the victory over Vargas. I think he's going to find the ground and end up getting what he wants. But man, it would not surprise me to see Vargas go out there and just swing, throw a left hook to the body, a right hook to the head, a left hook to the head, followed with a left high kick in there somewhere, and just clip him and go. I don't think that's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. Um, I think Pimblett wins this. I don't think it's as much of a lock as people think. I wouldn't use this as your anchor bet because just Pimblett is a better fighter. What you say all the time, don't overthink this one. Don't overthink this one, guys. Pimblett should win this. But Pimblett just has a lot of holes to be this big of a favorite. He has too many holes to be this big of a just in all of your parlays as your anchor guy. Like I said, I think he wins it, but man, he takes a step up in competition. Uh, and I don't think he's going to be the next Conor McGregor.
I am totally, totally, totally with you. I think the good thing about Patty, so this is going to be his undoing eventually, but I think the good thing about Patty, and we talk about this too, is he knows what he is good at, and what he is good at is being faster and just squirmier than other people. He's comfortable in the grappling transitions. Like even if he's on his back, he understands that he needs to stand up, scramble, get to the top, and he can move really well. I guess is what I'm saying. He's not stiff. He moves really really well. Now you just said it exactly. His stand up it needs a lot of work. It's hilarious. Michael Bisping said, "Hey, how do you think you're going to be able to strike with everybody in the UFC with your chin so high?" And he just goes, "Self belief." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." I hate when you guys pick apart, prospects like Ian Gary. Look, Ian Gary is miles above Paddy Pimblett, just miles above Paddy Pimblett. And because he got rocked in a fight, you guys are like, oh, he's a fake, he's a fraud. It's like, no, he's not. He's good. And Paddy Pimblett is good for what he is, but he's not going to beat the top 5, 10, 15 guys in the division because his chin's too high, his striking is too sloppy, and I don't think he's strong enough and a good enough wrestler to beat those guys. That being said, he's fighting a 35-year-old guy who is stiff as they come. You know, he accepts being on his back, at least in some of the fights. Sometimes he stands up, sometimes he's on his back. And he just got promoted or he's a purple belt or something. So, hopefully he has more faith in his jiu-jitsu than he should. I think this is a don't overthink it. We're going to choose the younger, more pliable, just faster, dynamic. It almost reminds me of like Mokaev and Durden, right? Durden is fine. Durden's solid. I don't think he has the cardio, and I just don't think he moves as well as Mokaev or as Pimblett. So I think Pimblett's pretty easy. If he can't beat Vargas, yeah, what are we doing? This is going to be a really rough UFC tenure.
Exactly. The other thing with Pimblett that I really like is with his last fight against Vandramini, he was trying to be a technical striker, which he is not, and he got rocked and beat up, and it wasn't great. But he found a way to win. Let's talk about Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega finds a way to win, and he can lose a fight up until the last second, and then he finds a way to win. And that in and of itself is just one of the most impressive facets of fighters. Even if they're bad, if they find a way to win, it doesn't matter. Pimblett
That
does that.
Vendramini fight was crazy impressive. Oh my God, was that
Yep.
impressive?
And once he stopped trying to be a technical striker, which he's not good at, and just threw the F down, he was fine. I mean, he rocked him, threw a knee, rocked him some more. And I think Pimblett's fighting ability far supersedes his technical ability in the stand-up department. And I think once he just let him throw, he smelled blood, he knew what he was doing, and he was down to go win a fight, chin in the air and everything. So Pimblett, he's got a lot to offer. He's just raw, there's just some really. It's weird to see specialists this day and age, and that's what he is. He's
20
a
fights in,
grappling.
too.
Yes, 20 fights in, and he is a grappling specialist who really has got to round out the rest of his game if he wants to be that guy who's going to be fighting for a title someday.
All right. So we like Patty, but by an inch, not a mile.
Honestly, it might even be by a mile. I don't even mean that. I think he should win by 5 miles, but don't be surprised if he gets hit and caught and clipped because he's just got those big holes. So I do
Why
think
do
he
I feel
wins
like
it.
he
I do.
gets why do I feel like he gets like clipped or something again, ends up on the bottom and wins by like a heel hook or just something lame, like something just
I
outrageous.
could see it. I could absolutely see it because I think he's a better fighter and the better fighter will win. But again, it wouldn't surprise me to see something like the Vandramini fight. But that said, Pimblett's striking looked a lot better in that first Vandramini fight. Maybe he's been working on that quite a bit, understanding that the level that he's got to level up because he has improved. And maybe we see an even more improved Patty, even though he's really just outgoing and kind of crazy on the outside. Hopefully he actually realizes, look, I got to get better. I want to be better. I want to be able to talk trash and then back it up as well. So, wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me to see that, but um, I think what we've seen of Paddy is not this unbeatable, phenomenal fighter. I think we've seen a lot to be desired. But we've got Arnold Allen up next, and we've got Dan Hooker. This is a good card, man. A lot of these guys on this card are just either top talent and just under the radar or going to be top talent. I mean, Dan Hooker and freaking Arnold Allen. Are you kidding me? That's such a solid fight. Um, Man, we've got Ilia Topuria fighting Jai Herbert. We've got there's a lot of really good, solid talent on this card, whether they're fighting each other or just sprinkled throughout. And man, these two, I mean, Dan Hooker has been, gosh, he is so good. He is so freaking good. He's big, he's huge. Um, what really freaks me, actually, I'll let you lead with this one. I think I led with, did I lead with Patty? I don't even know who led with Patty. I don't want to say everything right off the bat. Tell us what you think about Dan Hooker and Arnold Allen.
I'm going to defer to you a lot on this one. I guess the thing that I wanted to know from you. So I was looking today, or I saw something today. So Dan Hooker was 3-3 as a featherweight. Let me see. His losses were not great losses. Jason Knight, Maximo Blanco, and let's see, one more. Yair, which is solid. He beat Hatsu
Yeah.
Hioki, Ian Entwistle, and Mark Adiva. Okay, so very, very blah. Very, very blah. Then he moved up for a long time. Man, he looked great. I mean, he looked like an awesome, just put together well fighter. How do you think the weight cut back down? And I'm not talking about his cardio. I'm not talking. I think he's an ultra veteran at this point. He knows what he's doing. But just we've talked about this with the weight cutting. How do you think his chin is going to hold up from going up for so long and then trying to come back down?
It's funny because that is my worry of this fight, of all of it. If they were fighting, if Hooker was fighting all of the people who he's been fighting in the weight class that they were fighting at now, I know what I'm saying. If Hooker, or up a weight class, whatever, him coming back down, I'm not worried about his chin. I'm worried about his body. Barbosa sat him down. Barbosa is Barbosa. Barbosa's put a lot of people down with those kicks, the spinning kicks, the heel hooks to the liver. But Arnold Allen rips that left hand to the body a lot. Um, he's a little bit shorter than Hooker, so it's going to be easier for him to rip that body. That's what I worry about, is the body, not necessarily the chin, because Arnold Allen is not a crazy power puncher. Like, I mean, he's not a Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler, took Hooker's soul, but Michael Chandler is Michael Chandler. The other thing that I worry about this with the weight cut is not even the weight cut itself, but the mentality behind it. Is he said, I cannot be a champion at 155. And so I need to change divisions so I have a shot at it. And the person at the championship is my teammate here. So I'm really interested in the psychology of Dan Hooker on this one. Um, Makhachev, man, I remember when we called that fight. I said Makhachev wins this, but I thought it was going to go over a round and a half because Dan Hooker is just that damn good. And Islam took him down and submitted him in half a round. And I think that is disheartening. And I think that he's going, whoa, I don't have a shot at a title if this guy is submitting me and this dude isn't even the freaking champion. So that's what I wonder. I worry about the body. I worry about the mind and body. I mean, his physical, actual body shots to endure, and then the mind, the psychology behind it. On a technical standpoint, holy shit, do I love Dan Hooker. I love him at 155. He is long, he's rangy, just great knees. But what people sleep on, this is so impressive. He did this in this Haas Pratt fight. Um, is he offensively wrestled, knowing he wasn't going to get the takedown. And he was okay with that. He didn't get discouraged or anything. He would cage wrestle, put him against a cage, and then just wear on him, take his time, come up, strike, come up, knee. I thought it was a great game plan. His knees were great. His kicks were great. His range is great. Haspratt moves a lot like Arnold in the sense where he moves a lot laterally. All right, just left and right all over the place. Man, didn't bother Hooker at all. Hooker stalked him down, threw kicks on the outside, evaded everything. almost flawless performance there. Um, and on the other side of that, we have Arnold Allen, who is just phenomenal. I mean, man, chin down, hands up, stops the shot well, has really good, clean boxing, and throws that left body work for days. Um, I guess that's a oversimplification of Arnold Allen's skill set. But man, he dropped Sadiq, I think, twice. Sadiq's a power puncher. Um, Nick Lentz, I mean, he kind of had his way with. Gil Melendez fight, I think that's overvalued. I think people look at that Gilbert Melendez fight, but man, after about 2 minutes of that Gilbert Melendez fight, it looked like Melendez did not want to fight anymore. He was just like he kind of looked like, all right, I'm retired, I'm out. You want to know what he looked like? This is funny. Somebody on one of the YouTube comments, after I said the Barbosa thing, I said Barbosa looked like he didn't want to fight anymore. He was like, he's retired. And he was like, I'd like to see you. It's funny seeing non-fighters out here. Let's see what you would do and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, are you retarded? I fought my entire life and I've been in a fight going, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. And you want to know what I did after that? Is I retired because that's what happens, people. Like I've been there. I've been in a fight going, yeah, I don't have it anymore. And I never fought again because I knew exactly what Barbosa is going through. I'm not being critical. I'm talking about a 35, 36-year-old guy who has been in the wars, and you see him when he would always fight his way back up again and again and again, just accept position. That's a guy that doesn't want it anymore. And that's what Gil Melendez looked like too. And again, guys, I'm not being critical. And for you guys out there, they're like, I'd like to see you do it. Well, I did until I didn't, and then I retired. And like I'm saying that from experience, not being rude. That's just a fact. Um, I actually think, if the weight cut isn't an issue, I think Dan Hooker wins this, and I think the way that he wins it is by wrestling. We saw Nick Lentz shoot in, get Arnold Allen's back quite a bit, kind of hang on him on the cage. We have seen Hooker go to war. He is down for a war. His fight with Dustin Poirier, 5 rounds, is his last fight. I mean, not his last fight. I'm sorry, against Makhachev, but against Hasprat or Nasrat Hakparast. Gosh, I mean, he that was dominant. Cardio was great. War with Paul Felder. One of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life is what he did to Al Iaquinta. Al had trained with me. He came out to Arizona, was doing some stuff in the real estate community, some speeches, and so I've worked with Al. Like the guy, he's as tough as nails. Right before that fight, Al Iaquinta murdered Kevin Lee. It looked amazing. I was 5 feet from that fight in Australia when he just starched Al Iaquinta, and I could not freaking believe it. That was just wild. Uh, I think Dan Hooker is that good. I think if the weight cut isn't an issue and his body holds up just physically to those body shots, and he uses his wrestling to just kind of nullify and disrupt the rhythm of Arnold. Um, I like Arnold. I am really that big on Dan Hooker here. And this isn't. I'm not running away with this. I just hey, we're talking about bets. We're talking about who wins, and I like Hooker on this.
All right, I'll let that be that.
Okay, well, we've got our main event coming up right here. Alexander Volkov and Tom Aspinall. You are going to kick this one off because I know how much you love Tom Aspinall. Um, the second coming of the heavyweight division. Uh, Tell us about Aspinall.
Well, sometimes you pump these up, and then I'm going to let everybody down. I like Aspinall a lot. I think Aspinall is phenomenal. I think he gets the win here. I mean, this is a showcase fight for him. He's headlining in London, where he's from, against Volkov, who looked horribly unremarkable in his last fight. Now, something was up with Volkov. He had the flu or something was going on. Still found a way to beat Tybura, but that's Tybura. We're talking about Tom Aspinall, who is a complete different beast. He's kind of like orthodox Cyril Gahn, like the same kind of bounce, the same kind of swagger. He's not a small guy. He's 6'5". I like Aspinall pretty much anywhere this fight goes. I think offensively, his wrestling, I can't believe he moves as well as he does for a heavyweight. It's unreal to me. Jiu-jitsu black belt, I think his jiu-jitsu is actually very, very, very solid. My concern with him has always been his chin straight up in the air. But I've made this mistake already with Volkov. I picked Volkov to win the Cyril Gahn fight, thinking Cyril does the same thing, chin up in the air. Volkov couldn't really even touch Cyril Gahn. And it was, 5 rounds of Gahn backing him up and kind of picking him apart. I think Aspinall is a little bit of a different beast. I think his boxing is a little bit cleaner than Cyril Gahn. Um, it's less volume, but more power. I really like Aspinall here. I like Aspinall. I think he's, the more technical, superior fighter. I think he gets it done. I think they're setting this up for a showcase, and a lot of people are going to choose the veteran. I like the young guy in this one. I think it's Aspinall time.
Man, I this one is hard for me because the a couple things. Aspinall's speed advantage is light years above Volkov. I mean, his speed is just un honestly, I don't know that I could think of any heavyweight who has anywhere near the speed that Aspinall has. I mean, anybody
Cyril
come to
Gahn would be
mind that you
it.
could? Yeah, well, sort of.
That's it.
And I'm not trying to be difficult here. So, but I think Cyril Gahn, he is fast, but he does a really good job closing distance as well. So like he's out of range, comes in and fires and then gets back out of range. He kind of flicks that jab. But Tom Aspinall is in the pocket, feet planted, swinging fast, hard shots, 3, 4, 5 punch combinations, just ripping. Where Cyril Gahn is not doing that. He's kind of in and out fast,
No.
but Tom Aspinall is swinging, knock your head off fast. Like you said, his chin up. Not only his chin up, what worries me about of Aspinall is that when people throw at him, he rocks back. He rocks
Always.
back with his chin up, almost hands down. And we saw that with Orlovsky a lot. Look at Orlovsky's earlier years when he was getting knocked out. Look at the fights that Orlovsky is getting knocked out, and he's doing that. He's reaching with those hands, chin up, reaching away. Aspinall does that almost all of the time. I think Aspinall's most impressive victory to me is the Orlovsky fight that he
Orlovsky.
just shot and took him down, choked him out right after that. Um, I think Volkov is so good at making the fight his fight boring. He throws that front kick and that jab, and he doesn't take a lot of damage. The other thing that worries me is this a 5 round fight, and Volkov is big. He is cutting to make 265, and if Aspinall can't, I mean, the worst thing that Aspinall can do is take Volkov down round one or two times and not finish him, and then be tired in round two. Um, I Man, I like Aspinall. I like Aspinall. I like Aspinall. Um, I think I got to go with a vet on this one. I got to go with Volkov. And I don't want to. I don't want to. I like Aspinall. Before I watched tape on this, I was like, Aspinall's a winner. Let me figure out why. And I just I couldn't figure it out. And here's the reason why. Is not that I think Aspinall is bad at all. I don't. I love him. I hope he beats Volkov. Um, but if you look at his wins, Sergei Spivak, which is a solid win. We had him winning, the other day. Sergei is, the weirdest, translucent, creepy Russian I've ever seen in my life. Um, with great wrestling. That is a solid win, but it's very different than this fight. Then he beat Andrei Arlovsky, where um, yeah, I mean, he was winning that first round, but it was really clear when he was just shot in, took him down. Then you've got Alan Boudreaux, Jake Collier. I mean, those are not world beater fights. And Volkov has fought, let's see, his only losses are to Cyril Gahn, Curtis Blades, and Derek Lewis in the UFC. Derek Lewis, that was that's Derek Lewis. So it was a very boring fight where he just kept Derek Lewis on the outside for the whole fight until he got knocked out. Curtis Blades is Curtis Blades and could out wrestle a freaking bus not named Derek Lewis. And then you've got Cyril Gahn, who is just that freaking good of a striker. And he was really beating everybody else in the division. Um, it comes down to speed for me. Is Aspinall speed enough to really hurt Volkov again and again and again? And I think in that first round, he is going to have the speed, maybe even in the second round. But once that speed starts to go away a little bit, um, we just haven't seen enough of Aspinall. I haven't seen Aspinall fight long enough when a fight is dirty and ugly and he's got to grind and go. We've seen that with Volkov. Volkov will get up again and again. He will not quit. He's slower than freaking molasses, but he's big. He's got a good jab, and he knows his fight though. I got to lean Volkov on this one, and I hope I'm wrong.
We'll see if it's a good night for London.
Yeah, exactly. Man, well, that is all of our picks, man. So you guys, that's all we got. About an hour and 45 minutes, a little bit less than last time. Make sure you guys like the channel, subscribe, and check out our Patreon in the link below, and share us with some of your friends. Tell all your friends how awesome Brandon and Santino are, and how I don't know. Come join the fun. Hang out on Discord with us. Watch fights with us, and definitely comment. We love hearing your comments. Even some people that are rude, I still comment. I try and respond, positively. Try and negate, kind of get rid of the negativity. But I think even in the comments, we've got a lot of fun comments, a lot of good people who want to talk MMA in a positive light, and I like being positive too. So we talk a lot of trash on here, but we're messing around. So come join us. Let us know your thoughts, guys.
Thanks, guys. Peace.